kids, I'm just looking at this piece of wood that looks like a solid piece of pine tree. And I could judge this piece of wood to say this is a solid piece of pine. Well, it looks like that way on the outside, but actually, when you look at the inside, you can see that my judgment was wrong. On the inside, it's actually made up of little pieces of wood that have been glued together in sheets and then pressed together with a pine tree sheet on top to make it look like it's a solid piece of pine. Well, if I was to judge this piece of wood based on what's on the outside, I would in fact miss what it really is. The Bible talks about how we as people tend to judge others by looking at the outside. Sometimes we can judge others by the way that they look or maybe how they're dressed. But the Bible also says that God looks at what's on the inside of a person, which reminds me of a funny story. There once was a zoo that had a gorilla in their zoo, and the gorilla got sick, and unfortunately, the gorilla passed away. Well, that was on Friday, and the zoo was going to open again on Monday, and so the zookeeper said, we have to have a gorilla for all the boys and girls to come and see on Monday. There's lots of kids coming from school trips, and they're coming in on buses with their juice boxes and their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they're coming to see the gorilla. Well, that's when the janitor spoke up and said, well, listen, I'd be happy to dress up like a gorilla and go into the gorilla exhibit and pretend that I'm a gorilla. And that way we can at least get some time in order for us to get a new gorilla here at the zoo. Well, the zookeeper said it's a great idea, so they put the janitor inside a gorilla costume, and into the exhibit he went on Monday morning. And the kids came rushing off of their buses and with their juice boxes and jelly sandwiches, and they came up to the gorilla exhibit, and they looked into the bushes, and there they saw what they thought was a gorilla. Well, the janitor was really enjoying all the kids' attention, and so he started to act like a gorilla. He started to move around and walk to and fro in the gorilla exhibit, and then he started to swing from the trees, and before you know it, he got carried away, and he swung right out of the exhibit and landed down directly into the lioness exhibit. Well, the lioness looked over and saw this gorilla now inside her exhibit. And so she started to stalk closer and closer to the gorilla. When the gorilla saw the lioness getting closer, he, being really the janitor, got so scared and turned and ran as fast as he could in his gorilla costume towards the trees to try to climb out of the lioness exhibit. But he was not a gorilla, just a janitor, and couldn't climb out at all. Closer and closer the lioness came until the lioness was so close that the gorilla finally shouted out, "Help, help! I'm not a gorilla, I'm just a janitor inside this costume." That's when he heard a voice coming from inside the lioness, and the voice said, "Quiet, will ya? If you're not careful, you're gonna get us both fired." Okay, all right. Well, this is a good lesson for us, and it's a lesson that actually comes from the Bible. The Bible says in 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7, that the Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This is a good reminder for us that when we see people, we're always called by the Lord to look at the heart of a person, to see them for how God sees them, as someone that he loves and cherishes deeply. In fact, that's how the Lord looks at you, and in the same way, he calls us to look at others. And so that's it, kids. We don't judge what's on the cover, and be careful of gorillas, because you never know when a gorilla will pop up. It can happen any... What? What's that? Oh no! It's a gorilla! It's popped up! Ah! It's attacking me!